given as a wedding gift in 1920. We, the family, braved bears and porcupines, traveling up north from Chicago in a Model T. It took 3 days on dirt roads. It was so much fun, my grandmother would say. The tires would blow out, I don't know, 2-3 times a day, and we would all pile out and cut out a little thing of rubber and heat it up with our matches and get it to melt just enough to patch the tire, and we'd all pile back in, and on we'd go, and 3 days later we'd be there. She brought her child, and my mother brought her children. And by the time I was 2, the weather was beginning to change. And we had a tornado that took down every one of the original virgin timber on the land. Some of my earliest memories are watching water come dripping down into a tin pot, because a tree did indeed fall on the little plywood cabin that had been erected. And so the very front of this patch of land, denuded of trees, soon began to be steeper and steeper and start to fall away, until you could go down it in a makeshift toboggan made of packing crates or boxes in the snow on Thanksgiving. And it got downright dangerous, going straight down. And my grandmother would say, I want a hanging garden of Babylon. I want this slope reclaimed. I want terraces and vines and leaves hanging down in glorious profusion. So sure enough, my boys and I took on the vision. We didn't know quite how to make a hanging garden of Babylon. So we dug flat places, and every year they'd wash right back down again in the spring rains. Then we noticed there were some dead trees lying around on this bit of property, just kind of normal progression of the growth of trees. Things would get old and fall down, and rather than let them rot right where they were, my son said, well, why don't we include them? And so we would lift these things up. My little kids would drag whatever they could. And we put rows of logs, and eventually, after 40 years, we had 7 terraces with relatively flat place, and then another, kind of like a step. If you were a great big giant, you could step down these terraces. And every year we'd come back, and the neighbors would say, the sweetest thing. The deer came, they had their babies there. They ate every single bit of foliage you lovingly planted the summer before. It was so beautiful. And finally, the neighbors became concerned that the beauty of the area, which was entirely now second growth pine trees, was somewhat marred by this stark dirt hill of great big giant steps with logs bleached gray by the sun. And they all came over, they all gathered together, and they brought all their seeds and planted everything. And the next spring we came back, and the deer had come and eaten every one. It was so sweet. Finally, we applied to the Department of Natural Resources, because that is the point of government, is to help protect its people and its land. And there was money, your taxes and mine. We got a grant. We paid, 20%. The state paid 80%. We brought in some young people who had a brand new business planting trees and landscaping, and my son spent an entire summer helping this out. We put in rain barrels that would catch the rain and then tubes that would drip all summer, all winter long, fall and spring, sorry, we took them in the winter, and kept that irrigated. And this summer, I am happy to tell you, with my granddaughter, now the sixth generation on this tiny little piece of land, enjoyed 8 feet tall trees and bushes. It is not a hanging garden. Nothing drips down and blossoms. Vines do not swing. There are not lovely dancers and swaying peacocks, as somehow I think my grandmother imagined. What there is a hillside of indigenous plants flourishing. We sat for an entire morning where a small white pine, young, had grown this much. You can tell because the very top is just straight up and it's a very light green color. We started in the morning and it was kind of flopped over this way. And I realized that as we sat there playing with the baby and the sun rose to overhead at noon and moved on over to the west by dark, that the tree followed all of the brand new top growth and the older, stiffer, down below branches, to a lesser extent, followed the course of the sun. And it was, I think, the loveliest day that I can remember.